Okay, perfect. Hey, everybody, welcome to the National Citizens Inquiry. It's April the 26th. We are in Red Deer, Alberta today. I have with me here Mr. Leighton Grey, who is senior partner at Grey Spencer LLP, headquartered in Cold Lake, Alberta. He is an extraordinary lawyer, making extraordinary waves in Canada today. Thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. We just saw some amazing testimony today. What are your thoughts on what you've heard so far?
Well, first of all, I just think it's remarkable to be here, the sense of being part of something that is so necessary and is really much bigger, than all of us individually. I think most of the people that I talk to, and I'm sure it's the same for you, there's a common sense of COVID of isolation. And not just physical isolation, but mental and emotional. And you heard many of the witnesses today talk about this, about sort of being in a silo and not being somewhere where we can share. And really, let's face it, we're just basically highly developed primates. We're social creatures, and we have to share pain too. That's part of what we do. This is why we live in families and communities and indeed in nations. And so I think what we're witnessing here is something really, really important in a different sense, but almost in the same spirit of the Freedom Convoy, I think.
Right. It's definitely, would you say, a healing process? Mm-hmm. You know, we suffered some great trauma through the lockdowns, and, you know, with respect to the testimony, one of the words that keeps coming up is the word forced. You know, we just heard from Justin Trudeau, it's all over the news, that he is now stating he did not force anybody to get vaccinated. You know, it was all just incentivized to encourage Canadians to do that, but, you know, we're hearing the opposite from these witnesses with their testimony. I just find it very convenient that his statement is the same time we're listening to testimonies from Canadians who are saying the opposite. So, you know, what category would you put that kind of rhetoric in now with Justin?
Well, I think it's deeply dishonest and disrespectful to the Canadian people. Sadly, we have a Prime Minister right now who is profoundly ignorant of most of the things that he tries to talk about, but I would say especially the law. For example, he has no understanding, he has no coherent understanding of the word force as that is defined in the law. I'll just give you one example. The Criminal Code defines an offense of extortion. People commonly call it blackmail. And the idea is you're getting something by force. Well, it need not be physical force, right? That force can take different forms, right? You can threaten to, for example, publish revealing pictures or something about somebody. You can threaten to reveal some situation from someone's past that could destroy their career. We see this all the time. So there are lots of different manifestations of force, but of course there's obvious ones here. When you tell people, when you actually have your cabinet ministers make orders like the Ministry of Transport order, which says that people have to be vaccinated or they lose their jobs.
That's right.
When you have ministerial orders that prevent people from moving about the country on planes and trains and airplanes, all of these are types of force that are clearly recognized under the law. He's playing with words that he doesn't understand. He's defining force. He's misdefining force. Actually, he's using
recreating the definition
of
force.
Well, I think what he's doing is he's spreading misinformation about the law, because what he's using force in the strict concept of using physical force, which actually at certain times was used in vaccination circumstances. You can just think only of the way they broke up the Freedom Convoy. What I saw was force.
Well, you know, it's funny you mentioned that. During the Freedom Convoy, a lot of the feedback we got from all the interviews, thousands of interviews that I had done, was that people thought or said that they didn't have a choice. They felt they didn't have a choice. They were put in a situation like possibly under duress, you know, which is very consistent with extortion. When you're forced, quote unquote, forced to do something, if it's under duress, you're going to make decisions and choices that you wouldn't necessarily do in any other circumstance, right?
Well, another example I'll just cite is there's a gentleman who's going to be testifying in this proceeding later in the week, Pastor James Coates, a very well-known pastor. Yes. He's a client of mine. I'm very proud to say that. He spent 35 days at the Edmonton Remand Center because he was put into a position using the force as you described it. He was placed into this awful dilemma where he had to choose between his liberty and his religious faith, because they wanted him to sign a bail condition that would have violated his religious conscience, because it would have required him not to preach the word of God, and he is a Christian pastor. So if that is enforced, then I don't understand what that word means, and he's really an incredible person. And imagine if you've ever been to a prison. It's a place that nobody wants to be, and to choose to be there for 35 days and be away from your family, your congregation, it gives you a sense of the quality and the integrity and the courage of the type of people who are on the freedom side of the debate, and really they have no equal on the other side, in my respectful view.
That's right. They're making decisions from the heart, for sure. Speaking of liberty, and words, these words, it's been a game of words. I've noticed when any kind of challenge was made against the narrative, against the mandates, against the establishment, any dissent, any hint at it, the words came out, and I happened to come across an article that CBC put out about you, in fact, a very highly decorated, credible lawyer appointed to the committee, the Judicial Committee for Alberta, and CBC puts out this damning article about you, calling you absolutely every name in the book. And tell me if you've heard these ones before, you guys. Racist, anti-Semitic, white supremacist.
Don't forget misogynist.
I was getting there. Misogynist. And consulting the Anti-Hate Network for their investigative piece. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible that CBC would try to discredit somebody of your nature, and just shocking. But you resigned in the process, and I understand why you would do that. But when the dust settles, do you have any plans to return, and what has come out as a result of your resigning?
Well, the decision to resign is actually one that I regret. I wish I would have. If I had it to do again, I think I would have made the Alberta government, in hindsight, knowing what the Alberta government turned out to be, I probably would have made them, remove me. I sort of fell on my own sword there. But I don't regret, even though that the cancel culture experience was terrible, I don't regret it, because it opened up a whole corridor to me of my life and my career. I met all these wonderful people, many of them are here now, and I never would have had these experiences. I wouldn't be here talking to you about such things if I hadn't gone through that experience. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but it's life changing. The one thing you learn when you're the subject of a cancel culture attack is that it's a choice. There's a great book by Viktor Frankl. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. And he talks about something in there called the ultimate freedom. And what that's defined as is that you don't control what happens to you, but in between that space, when something happens to you, when it hits you, you have a decision to make about how that is going to impact your life, right? That's your ultimate freedom. And the cancel culture experience really taught me that. And I think it's important I try to pass that on to all the people that I meet who have been suffered damage through COVID, because that's a really important thing to remember. That's something that he learned, suffering through the death camps in Auschwitz.
Sometimes through great suffering is when we find our best selves and we do our best work. Yeah. We're witnessing you're doing your best work right now.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you so much for taking the time to interview with me. You guys, Leighton Grey, the man who may disagree with what you say, but he'll fight to the death for you to be able to say it. Thank you so much, Leighton. It's been a pleasure, truly. Okay, you guys, make sure you stay tuned to the National Citizens Inquiry for more great testimony as they travel across Canada. Thanks so much.